that they deliberately put out there to make people believe what ordinarily should be unbelievable. Misinformation is almost the same thing, but in the case of misinformation, sometimes what you call cruise, deliberately somebody just sit down and say, what is it that I can get out there today to get people interested? Let me just tell a lie about something against somebody. And they know that it will go. But their intention may not be as authentic as that of a state or as deeply entrenched as that of a state. It's still misinformation. But the interesting thing about misinformation is that the state is happy whichever way. Whether you are misinformed or disinformed about any issue, the state is happy. When you look at what is happening between Palestine and Israel, the Israeli state, the American state, is interested in the public not getting the truth of the information. So if someone brings up information that says the Palestinians killed 5 million Jews in this last Gaza attack, the Israeli state is happy. The Americans are happy. If somebody says, well, they're not up to 5 million, they're about, 300,000. And I was there when the thing happened. It's misinformation. The state is always happy about it. Because in between, they don't want you to know the truth as to what is going on. But what social media and activists do, and popular power seekers do, is to put themselves in between this to get the truth out to the people. And this is where it's important that we understand our role in society. Because I have said this many times, when you are in a situation where we are seeking for popular power, in a very powerful country like Nigeria, we have 200 million people, you cannot be a bystander. What that means for those of you who use social media, being a bystander is saying, I like Facebook, I don't care about Twitter. Because your fate might be determined on Twitter. So if you're interested in seeking popular power, you must be active on all platforms. And you must be able to intervene, engage, without necessarily being toxic or nasty at all times. Those toxic engagements might work for a while, but each time a content is dropped, I'm talking about content of video, text, of audio, content of any type. Each time it is dropped, when you see 5,000 people engaging, there are another 20,000 people who are not engaging, but who can see through it. And I say to people, the biggest problem are those who don't engage, especially those who walk around saying, oh, I'm wearing white. I don't want to go near people who have oil. You understand? There is no white and oil in this situation because your faith is tied to the position of a person who constantly has the capacity to be throwing oil, even when he's wearing white. So you must be willing to engage. You must be willing to stand even some of the most toxic and horrible people. And the reason why engagement is important is that when you stand your ground, you will be known consistently for what you stand for. And I can guarantee you, this is time tested for me, that even some of the most toxic people respect people who have intellect. They do. If they see you on the street, if they meet you one-on-one, the first thing they will say to you is to come into your ears and say, now no be small people. We don't fight tired. So, and you know how they organize. They organize using micro blogging platforms, which are also, in my view, social media. So sometimes when the heat is too much for them, they will go into their WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, and close it and have conversation on how to fight back. It's the same way you have for your own group is the way they have for their own groups. The Nigerian army has its own Telegram group for fighting back against revolutionaries. The Nigerian police have their own Telegram groups or WhatsApp groups for fighting against you. So all the guys you are seeing on Twitter, they are not your regular people. A lot of them, majority of them are paid to do what they do. If you go to Abuja now, they have warehouses and warehouses of social media influencers. In fact, if there's a budget for borehole now in any ministry, the moment there is 40 boreholes to be built, they have to hire 80 media influencers to make sure that if the borehole is not built, they will say that there's borehole. That's how it works. And because they have realized the power of social media to bring them or bring them onto their knees. And in saying this, I want to refer to how far we have come as a small but compact group here in TIB, Revolution Now, Take It Back, and even our political party, AAC. We are the only people, this group of persons, who have been through it all. A movement, a political party, an intellectual group that has very powerful influence, but our influence is still, in my view, very latent. Why is it latent? We haven't used it as broadly as it is needed. The public, they are crying for our ideas, and our ideas are bubbling to the surface. In fact, the ideas we have broadly brought to the Nigerian people over the last few years have become, they have also spent time, energy, and resources to do is to make sure that they dilute whatever we told the public, or outrightly steal some of the ideas and claim that it's their own idea. And in some cases, turn the idea around through disinformation. And what was one of it? That we said everybody in Nigeria must be smoking weed. I go to places and ask people, where did they say? They said our pastor said it in church, that Sowore said anybody that's not smoking weed in Nigeria cannot live in this country when he becomes president. I said, your pastor said that? I said, yes. I have met several persons who said their pastor told them the same. But you know what? It's not new. It's the same thing their parents did when Fela was around. My parents were guilty of this. My father said to me, Fela said everybody must go naked when he becomes president. When Fela started movement of the MOP party, I said, Daddy, how could that? He said, that's what Fela said. That any woman you like on the street is your own. It took me 15 years to find out that my father was lying. 15 solid years. When I was playing Fela music one day, he said, oh, you want to become like Fela? Not in my house. And that's what they are telling every child that was growing up. But when you listen to Fela's music today, one of it I was listening to it when I was running exercising this morning. It's called Original Stuff Ahead. I'm not shocked, but it's interesting that in the 80s, Fela was talking about solar energy as a source of energy. He started shouting like there's plenty source of energy in Africa. He was saying that the United Nations said we cannot have water until 1990. This is 2000 and what? 24. We still haven't had water. Fela was complaining about 1990. Fela was upset that they said we are third world country. Now we are no world country. But that is the same agenda that has been passed on through programming, because this is another problem with social media, is that those who have the dominant force on social media will use it to program anybody. So you can be made to hate somebody you have never heard from before. Like I told you, one example is this idea that Sowore said everybody should be smoking weed. Even when I told so many of them that I've never smoked weed before in my life, they didn't believe it. They said, why is your eyes always closed at all times? But this is how I was born. I was born with armored eyes. So, but that's programming that they have done with social media. But the only reason why we have pushed back at all to open up the space for more people to listen to it is that we have people who are constantly also able to respond intellectually to say, hey, what we're saying is that cannabis can be used as medicine. It can be used to build houses. It can be used to cure cancer. It can be used to make clothes. A lot of them don't know that the longest lasting t-shirt I've ever worn in my life was made with cannabis. And I bought it in California. It lasted 15 years. T-shirts. It's better than cotton. But they also don't want to know. So every idea though that we talked about over the last few years, especially since 2018, are now being embraced. But they're not embracing it in your name because it is not in the interest of the ruling class or the state or the political class that you enjoy the liberation that will make any leader in Nigeria look like somebody with a talisman. And what is talisman? If the country works, they want to ask them, how many people were able to do roads, dual carriageway from Abuja to Lagos in 2 years? That it will look like talisman to people. And these are very easy things to do because each time you travel on a highway in Nigeria that is bad, usually the bad portion is never more than 2 miles. 2 miles. There was a place during the Christmas that they were showing in the east. The road dug to the point that I can take a trailer. That's the depth. It's like 9 feet below. I mean, a country that has government. Are you saying that 9 feet below we cannot fill it or refill it? When, as a matter of fact, you can take resources of Nigerians to go and build Eco Atlantic. Yes. And when I go to Eco Atlantic, I tell people, I take pictures from there. I said, every street on Lagos should look like the streets of Eco Atlantic, with interlocking block, with walkway for bicycle, with people's walkway. I said, no, it's not possible. It's not. Until you remind them that Eco Atlantic was built with Lagos money. Yes. And now that the Lagos landlords are in Nigeria, they will use Nigeria's money to build more into the Atlantic. But if you go to Eco Atlantic, the question you also ask yourself, do we need to recover land from the sea when we have land that has not been built? Because what was built in Eco Atlantic could have built land from here to maybe Ondo State with the same quality of roads, housing, drainage, and sewage. What is this man's name? The one that Lagos talks about, Jakonde. He said he wanted to build 15,000 houses before he left. He built more than that before and I think he was only in power for how many years? 4 years. These guys have been in power since 1999. They have not built a single house, public housing that is affordable to anybody. They have not built a single university that's affordable to anybody. Of course, they will tell you that they have federal universities, all these poultry houses that they call federal universities. I've been to them. Those are not the kind of universities that you call universities. If you look at the quality of the housing on campus, the quality of the teaching, instruction materials, those are not universities, except you have never been to a real university before. So I know we are entering the passionate zone, and I don't want people not to ask questions or participate in this. But where I'm headed is that we can use social media effectively, solidly, and I will say eternally. When I say eternally, as long as social media exists, because I can guarantee you that just as we are using social media here as tools for mobilization, for popular power, they are also always trying to figure out how to take social media away from us. One day, you see, it's already happening. Social media will be departing from the poor gradually. They've done it to Twitter. If you don't have a certain amount now, you are just an onlooker at Twitter. You know, Facebook has become crazily censored. You understand? If you put your video on Facebook, you put description, the description will not show up. Sometimes the person who is looking at the algorithm will say that the video you made was stolen from another person, copyright. If they don't use copyright, they will say your name doesn't correspond with the name that they recognize. How can somebody who is in California know that Sowore is not a real name? But when it is time to get fake names to do fake news, Facebook is in on it. So Facebook also gradually will become a tool. It has become a tyrannic page, anyways. And we are left with TikTok. But also TikTok, over time, will start censoring people. If I'm on TikTok now, TikTok algorithm start looking at this place, it will just restrict you based on the fact that this place is too nice. They think that you are stealing intellectual property because you are having a presentation in a hotel and because you come from Africa. They also look at this, a lot of discrimination. And anybody can try TikTok for another 10 minutes. If they start saying nice things here, TikTok might also restrict you. But what is important is that no matter what is available now, we must use it for popular organizing. And that takes me back to everyone I've talked about, including that college students in Seattle who used their Facebook page for the first time to mobilize for an event that got my room filled up. And on this, I'm appealing to all of you, influencers, male and female, content creators, that this country is your current country. And if it works, you get more content that you can create. If it fails, the content creators themselves will find themselves in refugee camps where there will be no internet and where there will be no electricity. If you jackpot to Canada now, before you can start creating content, it will take some 1 year because you have to find a job, sometimes 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I've done it before. And by the time you are done, you might have forgotten how to create content. In fact, Nigeria is a better place to create content. And you can tell because there are 40 million Nigerians that log on to Facebook every day. 40 million. That is almost more than third of the Nigerian population. If Nigerians decide not to go on Facebook today, Facebook will be begging us to come back. That was why the Nigerian government was able to control Twitter as well. It's because a lot of Nigerians also log on to Twitter. I don't have the figures, but I think it's only in India that people log on to Facebook than Nigeria. So content creators also start to create conscious content. Yes, comedy is great, but Nigeria is entering a point where nobody is laughing anymore. Religion is great, but God is not going to come and turn on electricity here. It's not part of God's work, job description. Yes, content that makes for the rich is great, but there are less and less rich people in Nigeria today. Even Dangote is crying out. I think he was forced the other day to go and start his refinery because there's no free money anymore to be selling in BDCs. So, because the thieves themselves come after other thieves. So, I'm just appealing to you to understand that the power is in your hand. Finally, I want to talk about artificial intelligence. And that is where the power of our human brain will be challenged. The job of creating content may no longer belong to you very soon. Because anybody who is very good at artificial intelligence, who understands it, can sit down and do the job of creating content of 200 people. So while you are struggling to create your content, artificial intelligence will create the content of those who know how to use it. So I implore Nigerians to get involved in understanding artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not about you typing something and your phone dictating to you what you should write in law. It's deeper than that. It can fake voice, it can create video, it can create photos that look like you. It can be serving a website in which only one person will do the job of 500 people, if they understand. So we must also understand it because that is where the next assault on our fundamental rights will come from. The state has made a lot of mistakes. When I say state, across the world, including America, Russia, China, they made a mistake with how they democratize internet. I don't think they will make the mistake with artificial intelligence. So that's where I want to stop, only by saying no grief for anybody in 2024. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Sowore, for that wonderful presentation. So we'll take the next few minutes to take questions. If you would like to ask a question, please put up your hands and um, we'll give you the mic to ask questions. We only have a few minutes for this, so please go straight ahead. So, Mr. Sahid Husseini, please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Go ahead, please.
Excellent, thank you very much. This is going to be very interesting.
All right.
Really agree with a lot of what was said, but I want to raise a question that I think emerges from a lot of the contemporary debates about social media among things-seeking movements globally. So, for instance, there's been a recent by someone called Vincent Levins, entitled "If We Burn," that looks at political uprisings of the 2010s, starting from prior to the Arab Spring and looking at these sort of leaderless, spontaneous social media-driven movements across the world, Latin America, in Europe, in the Middle East. And it draws actually a fairly worrying conclusion, which is alludes to some of what you said, that a lot of movements do not want to cause some disruption to challenge power, but they achieve much less in terms of gaining power, and oftentimes they create the conditions for their own opponents to gain power. And I think we've seen this in Nigeria. I mean, hence the real revolutionary potential, as you pointed out, was not only stalled, but in a sense, redirected towards something that we did not know. I mean, particularly in the 2023 election. And this is not just a Nigerian issue. I mean, even Occupy 2012, which you alluded to, the ambitions of the people who set it out and the place it actually reached ultimately was so very different. And let's just look at Black Lives Matter also. I mean, the biggest mobilization in American history, to what end? I mean, ultimately getting some democratic Congress people to work into club and go down in the House of Representatives. So, I mean, it raises a fundamental question about whether the tool itself is so broken and so directed towards corporate interests, towards individualized interests, that we ought to be thinking differently in terms of how we engage with it. So I guess, I'm curious about the power aspect of this question. Can this tool actually lead to organize not only resistance but movements that gain power and use it productively? Because it seems like globally there are very few examples of that. And if not, then how should we use it? I mean, if it's not about mass protests, which it seems are leading to a deadline very often, then are there other ways of using it? Maybe serving more covertly, maybe in terms of recruiting, maybe just various other kinds of less influencer-driven methodologies we can pursue. So I'm going to move long, but I'm very curious to hear your view on this. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sahid. I wish that we had you as one of the speakers today, and I think subsequently we should have you. And I think I mentioned all of this because there was no time. That social media can promote, could start as a leaderless movement, but where it gets dangerous is when you get to a point where it should catalyze into a leadership-driven movement, and then people keep saying it's leaders because honestly, there is no time that any uprising is leaderless. It's just a matter of what is the quality of the leadership or what is the nature and character of the leadership. What we've seen in Occupy 2012 and NSAS is that it had leadership. The problem was that the state was looking for the leadership that it was comfortable with. And when they knew that the movement could move in the direction of those who cannot be compromised, who cannot be talked to, they turned on them. We are examples. They turned on the Revolution Now movement everywhere. It was physically attacked and it was planned. Because they wanted specifically the kind of leaders that they know they could talk to. The police was so desperate at the time they went and picked Naira Marley as the person they wanted to talk to. When it didn't work, they brought in Davido. Until when they got to the police headquarters and they asked Davido, when you are leaving this place, we want to ask you about some people you killed. That was the end of what they wanted to achieve. They were just searching for constantly, and I'm not mentioning all these names just to scandalize them. It was the reality of the situation because they knew at that time that if the public turned in our direction, revolution now, there's no way that struggle would have died the way it died. Because, as I keep saying, the best day for NSAS was October 21, 2020. After they killed us, the state was at its weakest. But it needed leadership of the movement to understand the weakness of the state and take control. And the moment NSAS ended, and I'm saying this, and you should listen to this, they knew that the young people in Nigeria had tasted blood and they would seek political power. So, in their search for who could generate or benefit from it, they found somebody who they know when they take power from him or they cheat him, he will not rise against them. And that's exactly what we had predicted. If you ask anybody in our movement, they will tell you that predicted this, that look, they are going to look for somebody who will be malleable, who will not challenge power. So anytime you have a movement, and I'm saying this categorically, and you see Obasanjo run, you understand? That is the state in its rawest form coming to ensure that power did not happen. If you see the likes of Doyo Kukwe, this is what they do for work. Transactional politicians. When you see Babangida run, all these people were all present. All these parameters were present in 2023. And when we were warning people, they also knew how to deploy money. On my way here, and you guys will say, oh, Sowore is talking about Labour Party again. Peter, the Labour Party spokesperson, I think one of the chairman said they didn't have money to pay polling agents. That was why they couldn't win the election. That was Ake Oshitoku. But if you see Ake Oshitoku also in any movement, run. Yes, I'm saying this category. If you see Femi Fani-Kayode, run. Because these are state agents distributed in strategic positions in the country to make sure that anytime there is a positive movement towards liberation, they will just be dragging it down until there's nothing. Ask yourself, Obasanjo spoke after the election in 2023. Glaringly, they cheated us. What are the young people? They were audios of him and Charlie Boy talking. What happened to Obasanjo? When did he drop the agitation? Because it's transaction. So, Baba, waiting there, bring your contractors. Baba fizzled out. This is what the outcome they want to achieve. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, but it speaks to what you are saying. What I want to say conclusively, I won't say conclusively, but just to address this is that whenever there is popular movement in any country, it doesn't matter whether it's Nigeria or US, interests are going after that popular movement. Influencers are seeing how many people can follow them. Corporate bodies are seeing how much profits they can make from it. And then the vultures are there to feast on the movement after it is dead. And that's what happened to NSAS. The vultures were hanging around. They knew that the young people will ask for political power. Then they killed the movement first and they feasted on it. And part of how they killed the movement was denial. I said, no, nobody was killed at Togeto. We shoot people, live bullet, but they started asking you to go and bring the dead bodies they killed and took away. Go and show me the dead body. You understand? That's how it is. It's the same thing in Egypt. The movement came, gained political power. Then the Muslim Brotherhood came. Then the US said, no. How can we have Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt? They scattered the whole thing, brought back the military. This is what they are doing in Pakistan. So anywhere there's a mass uprising, this corporate interest in particular, and retrogressive political forces will come out of the woodwork. Some of them parading themselves as progressives. And the media also will start picking on who to interview. There are mornings that you wake up and be going from channel to channel. I'm not talking about channel TV, I'm talking about channels of televisions in Nigeria. And you'll be wondering, am I living in the same country with these people? Because you see some of the most retrogressive people arguing about irrelevant things. And they keep coming back. They'll call them the social commentators. They'll say, we are here with the social commentator. This is not, Mr. This one, Onokwesa. That one will just vex. I'm using Onokwesa as an example because of the outburst with profile. So it's all part of the design to ensure they know that the moment a country like Nigeria faces liberation, a lot of hands are going to lose power on the continent of Africa. They know it. They know the power that Nigeria, the impact that Nigeria could have on Cameroon, on even Ivory Coast. The man in Ivory Coast is not different from the one in Cameroon. The one in Togo is not different from the one in Nigeria. The one in Benin Republic. They are all the same. They are part of the same club. So it's also in their own interest that Nigeria don't. It's the war against Nigeria is not just from Nigerian politicians alone. It's a global. Of the examples around the world to learn from. The pitfalls that other people have made, we can learn from it and ensure that we have a flawless process of liberation in our country. Because if there's any time that Nigerians can come together and get popular power, it is now. Because the guys who are in power now, they are a blessing to revolutionary movements. This is what revolutionary movements pray for: stupid people in power, so that they will make enough mistakes, power will just fall on the streets. But it's not enough for power to fall on the street too, because they are not the only one who wants secondary school cats, and they were hunting that cat, and the cat was killed by a moving vehicle. By the time they all got there, discovered that there were 6 groups were all after one cat. But it wasn't until it was killed by a vehicle that they realized that many groups were after the same cat. So that's the nature of power. Who is looking for power? Who class in different forms are looking for power. The religious class are looking for power. Those who felt that Nigeria has been Islamized are looking. There are people of ethnic stocks who are looking for power. There are even social media influencers. They are looking for power because power brings instant wealth in Nigeria, and that goes with that kind of wealth. So that's my submission. I hope it answers your question appropriately.
All right, thank you very much. We would take two more questions. So let's go to Utman Kazim. Utman, are you there? Utman, if you're there, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. And if you're not there, let's quickly. Okay, Utman is speaking. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sowore, for your insights. And this evening, I believe you have seen rejuvenate hope in the country and also using social media to effect the revolutionary change we all desire. Just the same way you have been doing over the years. Thank you very much.
Can we take another question and just answer?
All right. So let's take one more question so that we can address two of them at the same time. So we'll go to Olomi Megashino. Are you there?
Happy New Year, everyone. Good morning. I want to start by saying I believe the good news because the old world to create a new one. That has been my perspective for quite some time. And I've heard so many of these projections, and I believe that if there is a solution, social media power is one of those things that are being formed right now. So my question now is, how do we identify the local talent among the young people and create a platform, as you have said, about we having our own social media platform in the future? Well, people right now. So if I'm going to teach right now, every single person, every single young person who has identified their talent and those who are yet to do that, how do we bring them together, identify their talent, create the social security database for them, and be able to put them in the right position to develop this talent? There are so many popular cultures, right? We have so many movements. But if I believe if we have one social security database system for young people, we'll be able to harness social media power to develop ourselves. So my question is, how do we develop our digital talent?
I didn't hear the last question very well.
Could you repeat the last question so that we hear you clearly? Your mic is kind of muffled. So
Yeah, it's very muffled. Did you remember what you said?
I said, how do we develop our industrial talent? How do we develop the young people? Identifying them and making sure that we have one database system. Because regardless of our size and our sensitivity, we need one directional system. Thank you.
Did you know what he said?
How do we?
Well, let me just try to answer what he said.
Your mic.
Okay. The first person was asking about youth ideology and influence for good, and I think this is very important. And I think it ties into the second question too. Is like, how do you use youth industry to save the country? And I want to go back to the civil rights era in the U.S. I don't know if any one of you have heard about the Belafontes of this world. They're some of the best popular musicians of their time. And it turns out that one of the things they were doing, even though they were making music and making money, they were in touch with the movement for civil rights. They were not only funding them, they were using their music to support them. There were movie stars who were also using their music and influence to support civil rights, both black and white. And part of what they were afraid of at that time was that if they didn't do what is right, apart from those who are conscious, those who weren't doing what is right were not patronized. So if your music is all about feeling good, they will dance to it. But you're not likely to see somebody invite you to a party or go en masse to your party. If your movie was good, but you weren't concerned about their social political condition at that time, they didn't go out to watch your movies. So it forced a lot of people who were in the popular music and arts and culture in the US to start doing good as well. And I think that is what is lacking. Part of our problem in this society is that we like fluff. If somebody comes out now and starts shanking on the street and can video it, in 5 hours, you'll get 4 point something K views. When I mean cheating on the street. But if someone comes out and save a person who the police is trying to kill, that person will be the one under attack. Why did you go and face police? You know he's carrying gun. Are you mad? You know, they will start analyzing what they think is wrong with you mentally. And those are not likely to get the kind of attraction. But we must also admit that we are seeing that shift from just general flop to a general consideration for substance. For instance, what came out of, let's say, Plateau attracted enough attention to the point that Nigerian government had to send people there and try at least pretend to want to save people of Plateau. A lady who came out and said generals did not allow her to progress because they were pressurizing her for sex couldn't have done it some 10 years ago. But today, the army is forced to reply and say, we are going to investigate this. They may not. So, and that's what Witness was saying. Let's all, and I made this point when we were starting out today, that the problem when you're talking about popular power is that the general population that wants power don't exercise their discretion on social media. And what's your discretion? Instead of spending your whole day going from one skit maker to the other that is funny, how about you divide it up and say, today I'm dedicating this to human rights. I'm dedicating to revolutionary ideal. I'm going to promote people who are saying sensible things too. And you will see the difference immediately. If, for instance, instead of trending somebody who is divorcing his wife on social media, if revolution now start trending for a week, do you know that just like the police now started talking about no grief for anybody, all of them will start reacting and say, what is this revolution now trend? I'm not saying you should trend revolution now. Whether you trend it or not, it's going to happen. It's a matter of time. It's not the trending issue. Because when people are confronted with their existence, or their demise constantly, nobody needs to be trending anything. They will fight back. I just don't know when it will happen, but I know how it will happen and I know how it will end. But that's not the conversation exactly for today. So to get young people to do this is also to de-emphasize the idea of young. Because it's not only young people that needs a better Nigeria. Old people too do. And they're all on social media. In fact, do you know there's this popular saying now that foolish people also grow old? Because you have also seen the way some old people in their 50s and 60s start reacting on social media. You go and quickly look at their photos and their background. You know that they were the people who didn't react when they were younger. But there's also a lot of foolish young people that are also coming. I'm sorry to say, I'm not abusing anybody, and they are the ones who are quick to defend what is against their interests. They'll say, the country is bad though, there's no fuel. The person who is at the bus stop waiting for vehicle will be defending Tinubu. Say, is it the only country in the world? If you say there's a thief, is it the only thief in the country? And it's at the bus stop, they just have a phone. And some of them is just is a conditioning. If everybody is going right, they want to go left. But in going left, they are going into extinction. What I'm saying is that more and more people who are there, who have sense, should speak up so that people who have no sense will not become the dominant controller of ideas. Because what this is about is programming. The Nigerian states, the political class have figured out how to program you instead of going straight. You will be going straight to, they will program you on your own to deviate onto the mainland bridge into the Atlantic, into the lagoon. That's what they are doing. But if more people, sensible people, if an idea is great, if it works, if it's in the interest of all, instead of having 5 replies, if he has 5,000, and the stupid ones start having 5, things will start changing. Trajectory, because at the
Everyone for joining. This...
By the way, what's Nigeria doing with games? I know you have interest in that.
So thank you everyone for joining this workshop. So we've come to the end of this workshop, but the conversation does not end here. Make sure you're following Take It Back movement on social media. On Twitter, it's at TIB Movement, and on all social media platforms, you can search for Take It Back on Facebook, on Instagram. You can also search for Omoyele Sowore on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and follow up. And the conversations will continue
On TikTok.
our
I'm on TikTok.
On TikTok.
Yeah. All of us on TikTok.
And the conversations will
And
continue.
it used to be that
Yeah.
you can never admit that you're on TikTok. Now,
And the conversations will continue on our social media platforms. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
and I'm going to start working on Snapchat too. If you guys can show me the filter. That was it. Can you wrap? Are you gonna wrap up? So wrap up. Yeah.